Hello and welcome to Scrolling with Ceazor. Today is April 28th, 2026. As always, I've got some news for you today, but this is not financial advice. So taking a quick look at the charts, things are still red today, a little bit red, but we're not looking too scary, nothing too bad, just a return to the former line of support, I guess. We'll see what happens. I'm not making any changes based on this stuff as it is. So ETH is down about 1% on the day. BTC is down almost 2%. And gold is down 2.5%. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, gold looks a little bit scary though. But anyways, Hype is down 5%. And Sonic is up roughly 3%. Now, I don't know exactly why. It's still looking terrible, but at least it's not correlated to all the other dumpings. Anyhow, let's move on to the news. So first of all, we have Liquidity retweeting DeFi Scan's post yesterday. I did cover this post yesterday. It's like basically a deep dive into Athena's stablecoin and all the possible ways that like they could lose the money, and there's quite a few, 15 ways that they could lose funds, right? Now, some of them are pretty iffy, like, you know, the front end stops working and you can't take it out, but it's still a legitimate concern for a user, right? So you can like check out that post, but as you can see, Liquidity did retweet it and respond with like the opportunity that Liquidity offers, which I would highly suggest you check it out. Basically, the only risks that you're exposed to with Liquidity is an oracle risk, because it has to have an oracle, because, you know, it's backed by ETH and LSTs, right? The LSTs themselves have their own like risk considerations, so Lido and Rocket Pool, but they're pretty safe, I would say, in comparison to a lot of other things in the space. And then the smart contracts, again, like now they're fully audited and immutable, so you don't have as much smart contract risk as something else that's unaudited, untested, brand new, and has a whole bunch of admin keys. That's not the case here. So you can check it out. I would highly suggest it, and the yield is pretty acceptable in my opinion, especially with the reduced risk. Moving on. So here we have another opportunity for a trustless stablecoin, which is FX USD by protocol FX. They are doing pretty good. He's this guy here, Ike Billions.eth. He's got a tweet here that basically says FX protocol is growing in during this bear market when a lot of other stablecoins are bleeding out. FX is growing, and I like that. Both Liquidity and FX protocol, both of their stablecoins have a very good security safety score on Pharaohs, and both of them are growing in this current market condition, which I'm happy with, because people are starting to wake up to the fact that, you know, like centralized stablecoins do have an inherent risk that permissionless, trustless stablecoins don't quite have. Okay, so you can check that out. Check out both of them, actually. Again, I have videos that explain how all of these things work if you want to look specifically for them on my YouTube channel. Okay, moving on. Here we have Flying Tulip, another protocol that I have a video on. You can check that out. But basically, Maurice is talking. He's done a little deep dive into Flying Tulip here, and he's posted this thread here, and he says the token price has dropped 28% in the month. So he's talking about the Flying Tulip token, not the stablecoin of the Flying Tulip protocol. So the Flying Tulip token has dumped down to about 7 cents, 28% in a month. But the protocol data is all rising. So if you do look at the protocol data, like everything is going up, like TVL, APRs, market caps, all of these are going up, except the Flying Tulip token is going down. And he goes into some concepts here, and like, you know, kind of explains things, what, like the protocol, like the products that are in the pipeline, the roadmap, and all of these other things. But I want to talk about this price action. Okay, so I did some research a little while ago on this, and I did a tweet out about this. And the reason why I can think that this is happening is because of one specific thing. So Flying Tulip sold their FT token to the public as risk-free NFT put options. So you can, at any time you want, you can pull out your initial capital, or you can pull out Flying Tulip tokens and forfeit your initial capital to the protocol. Now, we all paid 10 cents for our Flying Tulip tokens in those put options. And so obviously we're not going to take out the Flying Tulip tokens and sell it for 7 cents, right? But we could take our 10 cents back on every token. We could just get that USDC back, right? However, the VCs were not afforded this same product. They did not get this risk-free thing. They bought a whole bunch of Flying Tulip tokens for 10 cents, and they got a whole bunch of them. And then what they started to do was they started to de-risk some of these. So they're selling them to people for other tokens like ETH or even USDC. And then those other individuals who are like OTC buying from the VCs are now feeling the heat, and they're dumping the token. So there is the revenue of this protocol is being used to buy Flying Tulip tokens from the market and incentivize with them. Like, you can watch the video if you want to understand how it works, but all the revenue is taken and is used to buy back the tokens. So you can see there are these big green candles where that goes up, and then, you know, the VCs start dumping again, right? So right now the VCs are basically extracting the yield from the protocol. But after the VCs start, you know, getting what would we say, like running out of bags basically, or finally, you know, have de-risked enough that they're willing to hold, then I assume that the protocol's revenue will start to reverse this token pattern, this price pattern. Now, I can't say for certain, you know, who knows. If TVL migrates and leaves, then there will be no revenue, but there will always be the revenue that we put into the protocol, as long as we're willing to wait. Okay. Now, again, I say we because I am a investor. I do hold one of these NFTs, and I want to see Flying Tulip grow. So that's pretty much what's going on here as far as I can tell. Let's move on to Artem. So Artem has done a pretty long post here and he's calling out to Layer 0 to finally step up and join the efforts to recover the Kelp DAO loss. So there's a lot here, but let's just nitpick a few pieces out of here. So he says Aave has contributed 25,000 ETH. Kelp has contributed 2,000 ETH, which is significantly less, but it is like 70% of their treasury, right? So they're only holding 30% of their treasury after this, so that they can, you know, continue to pay for things, run things, and stuff like that, right? But Layer 0 hasn't put any number down on paper. They haven't committed to anything. So he's calling them out and saying, you know, are you guys going to actually put any money? How much? If so, how much? And if not, like, why not, right? You guys don't feel you own any of the responsibility for this, okay? And you'll see that there's a lot of people calling this out today, and it's definitely on the news. And this will be my everyone's talking about topic today, okay? So moving on. Here you have Alina. I started to follow her today. I thought I followed her. So I'm going to follow her today, and she's got a tweet here, and it's pretty interesting. So she's like, why are yield aggregators dead? And if she shows a DeFi Llama, you know, post here, or a chart of yield aggregators by TVL, and how it's kind of going down, okay? And she's got some good points here. So first of all, the yields that powered them no longer exist. So there's a lot less inflationary dumping tokens in the space. And then also, you know, even if there's the same amount of, inflationary tokens, the prices of those tokens are only down, because like no one's speculating on reward tokens very much anymore. So this is true, okay? Competition for real yield. So there's a lot of real world assets like tokenized T-bills and even like stable coins that are backed by T-bills and have interest rates built into them, and those heavily reduce like DeFi risk, okay, which I agree with her there, okay. And like for example, Frax is a pretty good example of this, okay. You can just hold SFXRX, or you can put FRX USD into certain locations and get their T-bill tokenized yield, okay. So that's a legitimate point. Concentrated liquidity is kind of the norm now, whereas like especially Beefy was a huge advocate of like LPing. It was a great place to LP to get auto compounding LP tokens basically, but they were mostly Uniswap version 2 tokens, so full range. But Beefy has built concentrated liquidity stuff, but it takes a little bit more work to launch one of those vaults, so they're not as fast. So, and people are not really, I think maybe people are not really thinking so much about using all of that. And then there's also all these other options, like people are also depositing into other places as well, like directly into Morpho and stuff like this. Now, I did reply to her and I said, this is a really good post, but it's only showing the negatives, and maybe she could have like shown some positives. So I listed some positives here. For example, products like Yearn Finance, which I obviously I love. They automate the risk reaction. So what I mean by that is like you don't have to monitor your risk as much. They pull their liquidity quite quickly. They are one of the only protocols that were able to not have any exposure to this like Kelp DAO thing, because they reacted so quickly. They pulled all their assets out of Aave, and they had no exposure to this problem, right? The robust risk assessments. So Yearn has they're curated, and they do a deep dive into any yield source that they actually deploy your capital to, so you can trust it a little bit more, right? They continue to be easy to use. You just deposit and sit back, right? Curve Finance continues to have a good source of yield. So they are still allowing you to deposit into Curve and get boosted CRV auto compounding rewards. Okay, so that's still happening, and they are permissionless and fully on chain, whereas you can't say the same thing about a lot of protocols out there that are doing this kind of thing. Like even like what she was saying, the risk. Where is it? This T-bill, this risk-free T-bill yield is not on chain, right? It's not fully on chain. Okay, so I still think that it's a valid place to put tokens and to consider. Now, I'm not sure if the same goes for all yield aggregators, right? Of course not. There were a lot of them, and there are fewer now. And TVL of Yearn Finance is actually down quite a bit as well. So I thought I would mention this and talk about it a little bit. Okay, moving on. So here we have Tay. Tay's got a lot of hate recently. I've seen people blocking her blocking people. But here she is, tweeting out about Litecoin. I haven't done a deep dive into this. I haven't looked at it, but apparently they've been exploited. Now, I don't hold any Litecoin, and I probably should care about this a little bit more, but it's like, I consider it kind of a shit coin, but not really, but it's, I think you can understand. So like, apparently they found the vulnerability in March, and then it was exploited in March, and it had already been exploited, and like they got to get their shit together and fix their shit, right? So I don't know exactly what's going on here, but if you're holding Litecoin, I'd highly suggest you to take a deep look at this and find out what's going on. Okay, so here I have North. North is posting about Ramses, and Ramses has upgraded their front end again. I haven't quite played with it yet. I'm going to play with it soon, because it's coming soon. Like VE33 days coming soon, so I think it's tomorrow. Yeah, it's tomorrow. So I'll check it out and play with it. But basically, like they've upgraded the front end to give it more like a limit order feel, and a few things like that. Like you can, it just this protocol is very good at, giving concentrated liquidity providers a fantastic user experience, and I would highly suggest you check it out, and especially if you are a concentrated liquidity pool provider. If you don't know how to do concentrated liquidity, you got to do some homework, but this is a fantastic place to play with concentrated liquidity and be a liquidity provider, because the user experience is so good. Okay, so I did a tweet yesterday about ETH strategy, and this is a longer one. I don't usually do threads, but this is a thread, okay? And in this thread, I talk about like the idea that like the legal teams are starting to really put pressure on DeFi protocols individually, not as an ecosystem or as an entire industry. They're attacking individual protocols. So ETH strategy is a protocol, I've done videos on it. You can check out this tweet here, and inside that tweet I show all the videos of their different products, right? But here, I live in Canada, so the first issue I have in Canada is their site is blocked. My ISP blocks it. It just says, yeah, this is not safe. You can't go here. So I have to use a VPN to access the front end. And this is not the only one. Like I also have the same issue with EtherFi. I have the same issue with Rise Chain and other protocols. I see it all the time, okay? So now that this could be a country thing, but it's not all DeFi protocols. It's specific ones. Like, so it's not like, oh, this site is new or this site is a crypto site. It's specifically this site is selected to be blacklisted for some reason. I don't know exactly why. Maybe I'm not technical enough or legal enough. Okay. Now, if you go to Uniswap and you're like, hey, I want to trade these guys' tokens, Uniswap actually, like you can't even search for the token by name. And if you put the contract address and you click it, it says this, you can't trade this token on Uniswap. So Uniswap has specifically selected this token for some reason. Now, it could be, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a person who made a conscious decision to do this. It could be some algorithm or some automated system that highlighted this token. But like you can go to Uniswap and you can like search for Trump and get like a huge list of just scam Trump coins. And you can trade them, you can buy them, but you can't do an actual DeFi protocol that has a proper, DeFi utility. I find it to be crazy, right? You can do it. You can trade the token on DeFi on LlamaSwap, so you can check that out and so forth. So I thought I would talk about this, and like this is not the first time we've seen this kind of stuff happen. The True Markets was attacked a little while ago by another True Markets, so they become Trueo now because IP infringement or some stuff like this. So we're seeing more and more legal leak into the space and hinder small teams or attack small teams and kind of make the big teams look like better and safer, even though they're not, because we have like big huge teams that have been making terrible decisions with protocols, with security and running things on EOAs and stuff like this, and they're not blocked, right? But you have a team that does stuff on chain and it gets blocked. Okay, and I find this to be saddening. Okay, moving on. So here we have Frax Finance. I'm gonna watch this thing. It's like 9 hours long, so I'm gonna dig through it and try to find where Sam Kazemian speaks and see if there's anything of interest in there from his talk. He went onto the stage live with 2 U.S. senators to talk about the Clarity Act. So if I have anything of interest from this, you can kind of watch me, and I'll do a post on it if this happens to. If I see anything that really stands out and is worthy of a kind of tweet of its own. Okay, so there's that. And that's pretty much it for today. I hope this has been interesting and useful. And thank you so much for listening, and goodbye.